All right, listeners, buckle up, because today we are taking a deep dive into the world of Heracles.
Oh, a great choice.
And you sent in that Wikipedia article on him,
Yeah.
and wow, it's full of incredible details about his life, his adventures.
Right. It's really amazing how this guy, this legendary Greek hero, still resonates with us today.
Yeah, no kidding. He's got this, like, timeless appeal,
Yeah.
you know, like the classic blend of godlike power,
Yeah.
but also, you know, very human struggles.
Absolutely.
So where do we even begin?
Well, I think we have to start with the fact that he's a demigod, right?
Right.
A son of Zeus.
King of the gods.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not, he's not just some strong man, you know what I mean?
Right, right.
It's crucial to understanding him, really.
Yeah.
Like, being the son of Zeus puts him in such a unique position,
Sure.
both blessed and burdened by this lineage.
Totally. Like, he's kind of stuck between two worlds, right?
Exactly.
Revered as a hero, but also a god.
Exactly. And here's something interesting. Did you know that unlike a lot of other Greek heroes, there's no known tomb for Heracles?
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's really intriguing.
It's like he just vanished. It really adds to the mystery surrounding him.
Well, one thing's for sure, his life was certainly not a walk in the park,
Oh, absolutely not.
especially thanks to Hera. I can't even imagine having a stepmother with that much power.
And that much, what's the word I'm looking for? Vindictiveness.
Yeah.
I mean, Hera's wrath, it really shaped his entire life. Just think about the psychological impact of constantly being targeted by the Queen of the Gods.
Yeah.
I mean, we often focus on her attempts to, like, thwart his birth,
Right.
or sending those snakes to kill him as a baby.
Oh, yeah. Which he strangled, by the way.
Exactly. Even as an infant.
I know. Talk about foreshadowing.
Yeah.
Jeez.
But the real insidious part is how Hera's vendetta continued, throughout his entire life.
Yeah.
It wasn't just brute force. She was a master manipulator, always working behind the scenes to make his life difficult.
Oh.
Like, take the 12 labors, for instance.
Ah, yes. The famous labors.
Those weren't just random challenges.
Right.
They were a direct result of Hera's influence on King Eurystheus.
So she basically tricked him into performing these crazy feats.
Pretty much, she knew exactly how to exploit his weaknesses.
Wow.
Especially playing on his guilt after he tragically killed his own family.
Oh, right. In a fit of bad...
Just by Hera herself.
Oh, man. Talk about a vicious cycle.
Right.
It's like she was trying to break him, you know?
Yeah.
Both physically and mentally.
Yeah.
But we got to talk about those labors, though.
Oh, for sure.
Some of them are just epic.
They are.
Slaying the Nemean Lion with his bare hands.
Come on.
And then wearing its skin as a trophy.
Right. I mean, it's not just strength, it's symbolic, you know? That lion represents, like, untamed nature, primal forces, and Heracles defeating it. It shows him mastering those elements, and that skin becomes this symbol of his power.
For sure.
This reminder of his triumph over, like, raw, untamed power.
It's like each labor has this deeper meaning beyond just the physical challenge.
Right.
You know, what about the Lernaean Hydra, that 9-headed serpent that, like, grew 2 heads for everyone severed? Nightmare fuel.
Oh, yeah, totally. That one really tested his resourcefulness.
Definitely.
It wasn't just about brute force anymore.
Exactly.
He needed a strategy, and that's where his nephew Iolaus came in.
Teamwork makes the dream work, even in ancient Greece.
Exactly.
Cauterizing the wounds to stop those heads from multiplying.
Yeah.
Smart move.
Right. It speaks to a different kind of strength, like thinking outside the box, adapting to those unexpected challenges.
Yeah, for sure.
And don't forget about the Aegean stables.
Oh, good point.
Can you imagine cleaning up after 3,000 cattle in a single day?
That's not just Herculean.
Right.
It's impossible.
It is.
So how?
Well, he diverted 2 rivers, of course.
What?
Literally changing the landscape to achieve his goal. Oh, wow.
It shows his ingenuity, you know, a willingness to think big, manipulate his environment. Again, more than just brute strength.
I'm starting to see a pattern here. It's like the labors are testing different aspects of his character, not just his muscles,
Absolutely.
Speaking of testing, what about those golden apples of the Hesperides?
Oh, yeah.
It's guarded by a 100-headed dragon. You can't make this stuff up.
I know. That labor's really interesting because it highlights Heracles' cunning.
Right.
He couldn't just overpower the dragon, right? He had to actually outsmart Atlas, the Titan who held up the sky, to get those apples.
Oh, wow. So, like, trickery and manipulation? It's a
Exact.
far cry from just bashing something with a club.
Totally. And finally, we have the capture of Cerberus,
Oh,
the
yes.
three-headed guard dog of the underworld.
Intense.
I mean, if the other labors represented overcoming earthly challenges, this one took him into the realm of death itself.
Oh, wow. It's like a descent into the darkest parts of himself, facing his own mortality.
I mean, how do you even prepare for something like that?
Right. It's a journey into the unknown.
Mm-hmm.
Confrontation with the ultimate fear, really.
Yeah.
And yet, Heracles succeeds,
Of course.
further solidifying his heroic status.
Right.
It's important to remember, though, that these labors, as brutal as they were also a form of atonement for his past sins.
Oh, right. I almost forgot about that.
Yeah.
You know, after killing his family, the labors were part of his penance. It really adds another layer to the story, doesn't it?
Absolutely. It's not just about achieving these feats. It's about redemption, too.
It is.
And while the labors are central to his story, I think we'd be remiss not to at least touch on some of his other adventures.
Okay.
They reveal some very different sides to his character.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
Sides that might surprise you.
All right. Let's move beyond the labors and see what else we can uncover about Heracles. I'm ready.
Okay, great.
Okay, so we've talked about how Heracles is, this powerhouse, capable of incredible feats of strength and cunning. But the Wikipedia article you sent mentions some other adventures.
Right.
Ones that show us, different sides of him.
Yeah, those other adventures, they're fascinating.
Okay.
They really reveal the complexity of his character. Like, they remind us that even a hero of Heracles' stature, he's not one-dimensional.
Okay, I'm ready. Give me an example.
Well, consider his time with Omphale, the queen of Lydia.
Okay.
You have the strongest man in the world, enslaved by this queen.
Whoa.
And get this, he's forced to wear women's clothing.
What?
And perform tasks that were, typically associated with women.
That's a pretty wild turn of events. How do you interpret that? Like, is it humiliation, a test of his character?
Well, that's the beauty of mythology, right? It's open to interpretation.
Sure.
Some scholars, they see this episode as a humbling experience for Heracles, stripping him of those outward symbols of masculinity, forcing him to confront, a different aspect of himself.
Yeah, it really makes you wonder what was going through his mind during that time. Was he resentful, or did he, learn something from it?
That is a fascinating question.
Yeah.
I mean, we can only speculate, right? But perhaps it was a lesson in humility.
Okay.
A reminder that even the strongest can be brought low.
Right.
Or maybe it was a chance for him to explore a side of himself that had been, suppressed by his warrior persona.
Interesting. It definitely adds a whole layer of complexity to his character. You know? Like, it's a reminder that heroes aren't always what they seem.
Right.
Speaking of unexpected sides of Heracles, what about his relationship with Hylas?
Ah, yes, Hylas. The story of Hylas is a truly tragic one.
Yeah.
Heracles took this young prince under his wing, becoming a mentor and companion to him.
Right.
Really reveals a nurturing, protective side to Heracles.
It does, but then Hylas is abducted by nymphs, right?
Sadly, yes.
It's such a heartbreaking story, especially seeing Heracles' grief, and his desperate search for Hylas.
Absolutely. It shows that even a demigod, he's not immune to loss and the pain of separation. It humanizes him,
Right.
reminds us that strength and vulnerability, they can coexist.
Definitely makes it more relatable, wouldn't you say?
For sure.
Like, knowing he experienced such profound sadness, it makes those superhuman feats even more impressive.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we've seen his softer side.
Yeah.
But let's not forget Heracles' role as a warrior and a strategist.
Mm-hmm.
Like his sack of Troy.
Oh, yes.
Which actually takes place before the famous Trojan War from Homer's Iliad.
Right, right.
That's a prime example of his, military prowess.
It is.
Shows us that he wasn't just this lone hero battling monsters. He could command armies, conquer cities, shape the course of history.
Absolutely. And it's important to remember that this whole event, it wasn't just a random act of aggression. It was prompted by King Laomedon's betrayal.
Okay.
Remember, Heracles had saved Troy from a sea monster.
Right, right.
But the king, he went back on his word and refused to pay Heracles the reward he had promised.
So it was a matter of honor and justice?
Precisely. It highlights another aspect of Heracles' character, his sense of fairness, his willingness to fight for what he believes in, even against, powerful adversaries. He wasn't just a strong man, he was a force for righteousness.
So interesting how he's portrayed as both a protector and a punisher.
Isn't it?
Almost like a a divine enforcer, righting wrongs and upholding a certain moral code.
Yeah, and that duality.
Yeah.
It's what makes his story so compelling. He's not a perfect hero.
Right.
He makes mistakes. He's driven by passions, but there's always this underlying sense of justice that guides his actions.
Yeah, for sure.
For sure.
Speaking of mistakes.
Oh, boy.
Let's talk about his death. It's pretty dramatic.
It is.
An ironic end.
It is.
For someone who overcame so many challenges.
His death is a classic example of tragic irony. I mean, after all those battles, all those victories,
right.
He's ultimately brought down by poison. And not just any poison, it's the blood of the Hydra.
Wow.
The very monster he had slain.
It all stems from a centaur's revenge, right?
It does.
And his wife's misguided attempt to win back his love.
Exactly. Deianira, his wife, she was tricked by the dying centaur Nessus into believing that his blood was a love potion.
Oh, wow.
So she soaked Heracles' garment in it, unknowingly condemning him to this gruesome death.
So, in a way, his own strength and past victories led to his demise.
Right.
It's a reminder that even the mightiest can fall victim to, deception, unintended consequences.
Absolutely.
And the way he chooses to die.
Right.
It just adds another layer of symbolism.
Right.
Consumed by the Hydra's poison, in unbearable pain.
Yeah.
He built his own funeral pyre.
He does.
And ascends to Olympus as a god upon death.
Yeah.
Wow. That's intense.
Mm.
It's like he's taking control of his own destiny, even in his final moments.
Absolutely.
A fitting end for someone who constantly defied fate and, battled against all odds.
It really is.
It's almost poetic, isn't it?
It is.
This incredibly powerful figure, like someone who faced down monsters, defied the gods themselves,
right.
Ultimately brought low by a trick of fate.
Yeah.
It makes you think about the nature of strength and vulnerability.
It does. It challenges our perceptions of, what it means to be a hero. Heracles shows us that true strength, it isn't just about physical power. It's about resilience, the ability to face adversity, keep going, even when the odds are, completely stacked against you.
And his death, ascending to Olympus as a god. I mean, it adds another layer to the whole story, doesn't it?
It does.
It's like he transcended his moral struggles, and achieved a kind of immortality.
Yeah.
Through his deeds, but also his suffering.
Absolutely. And his story, it's resonated for centuries, inspiring countless interpretations in art, literature, even pop culture.
Yeah.
You see him everywhere,
It's true.
From ancient sculptures to modern-day movies.
Yeah, he's become like this universal symbol of strength, courage, and that human spirit's ability to overcome challenges.
But what I find really fascinating is that, his story isn't just about triumph.
Right.
It's also about failure, loss, the consequences of our actions.
Yeah.
He makes mistakes.
He does.
He suffers.
He does.
He experiences betrayal, heartbreak.
Yeah, it's those human elements that make him so relatable even thousands of years later.
Yeah.
He's not just some, distant perfect god.
Right.
He's flawed, complex,
Yeah.
struggles with the same things we all do.
Exactly. And I think that's why his story continues to resonate with us today. It reminds us that even the greatest heroes, they're human, capable of both, incredible feats, but also terrible mistakes.
It's a powerful message, especially in a world where we tend to put heroes on pedestals and forget that they're just as flawed as the rest of us.
It's true. His story really encourages us to embrace our own complexities, to acknowledge our strengths, but also our weaknesses.
For sure.
It reminds us that true heroism, it doesn't lie in perfection,
No.
but in the struggle to overcome adversity and learn from our experiences.
Well, this has been a truly fascinating deep dive. Thanks for, guiding us through all the twists and turns of Heracles' incredible journey, really giving me a whole new perspective on this legend.
It's been my pleasure. His story really is a treasure trove of insights into the human condition.
It is.
And I hope our deep dive has encouraged you all to think about what resonates with you the most about Heracles.
And to our listeners, what aspects of his story stand out to you? What lessons can we take away from his triumphs and his tragedies?
Yeah, great questions.
As we wrap up this deep dive, we encourage you to keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep discovering the power of myth to illuminate the human experience. Until next time.